Manchester United 4, Chelsea 1, an emphatic win scoreline-wise. I'm joined by Stephen Howson. Top 4 is done. Let's start with that. That's the big point here. Manchester United will be in the Champions League next season. How important is that, not just for signing players for this, but just for getting this team back into sort of winning ways in the top level of football?
Well, we've had, in the last 10 years, I think this is really important. Has Ten Hag done something that no other manager's done? Well, yeah, he has actually. You know, we've had managers win trophies and we've had managers get top 4. Which managers won a trophy and got top 4?
Only Ten Hag.
Only Ten Hag, yeah, in the same season at least. And I think that's a massive, massive achievement. It can still go tits up from here. We might have peaked. I don't feel like we have. I don't feel like we have at all. I think we're bubbling along just nicely, and I think you've got certain metrics and places that you want to hit along the way, and milestones that you want to get over the line. And you know, I don't imagine Liverpool will be quite as poor next season. Chelsea sure as shit can't be as bad as they've been this season. So that it's got to be difficult. There'll be teams in and around us that I expect are going to be a lot better and are going to make it a lot more difficult for us to potentially finish third, which is what we're staring at the moment. So in terms of where does this lead us on from here? Well, it's almost validation of the project at this early stage. So like, this is like a bit of a check round, isn't it? So check your watch. Where are you? We're on course. That's all anyone can say. We're not ahead of it. We're not behind it. We're on course. We're tracking quite well. It then requires the correct investment and recruitment in the summer. And that largely depends on who owns us, which we have zero control over. And I'm sure Erik Ten Hag is going fucking bananas at the moment as he's trying to identify targets to bring in. I got done with one before on Twitter, Joe.
What happened?
I got done with one. I saw a tweet which wasn't a real one, which was that we were going to try and swap Lindelof with Tyrone Mings, and I lost my fucking napper.
Well, you know what? You might have been done, but at least you had the right opinion of that situation. It was false, but at least you didn't see that and go, you know what? I think he's cooking something here, as everyone else says on Twitter. That is just a bad transfer, isn't it? But how do we need to improve? And obviously a striker's obvious, but what are you looking at if you see this team and you think,
I like the fact
if we want to stay on
obvious.
Course, yeah.
I do like the fact a striker is obvious. I think, like, you look at this Arsenal team, I go, Joe, there's 100 million, make this Arsenal team champions.
You could probably get a slightly better right back. The midfield isn't great, but I guess Xhaka's going, but they're not, nowhere stands out as being horrendous, does it?
Yeah, where you go, what are Manchester United going to do? Buy a striker? Should we start there?
Yeah.
And I think that means that the room for improvement with United is so more obvious. And we had pretty good home form. Again, wasn't flawless. It was pretty good, right? It felt like Old Trafford was a hard place for people to go to and get points, which hasn't been the case last 10 years, Joseph, at all. No. I've seen some right shit come there and get a result against us. So it was nice to see us actually turn it around. Again, not flawless, but progress. Away, they're pretty shit, if we're being honest with ourselves, pretty poor. So you've got a mentality shift in terms of what can we do away from home next season, what can a striker offer to us, and I think that's 2 big points where you can see a real margin for United to improve. I'm not looking at any of our players and going, oh, he needs to do X, Y, and Z more than he's done this season at all. So yeah, just continue how you've done this season. And we've seen Sancho underperform. We've seen Anthony be a little bit hit and miss. You expect that they might be a little bit more improved next season. Garnacho, given more minutes, will probably improve. I think a striker, another midfielder to get into that rotation, because when Casemiro doesn't play, it ain't good. And then I think it looks like he wants a centre-half as well. And then you can make the case for the peripheries, like, another winger or another fullback or something along those lines. And of course, some people want a goalkeeper as well. So, with Manchester United, you can spend that money. You could easily spend that money. And I think that's a good thing. I think the obvious wins, despite the fact that they're obvious, are tangible improvements that would be made in the team. Like, imagine even if you just had a basic, like, fucking Tammy Abraham, Ivan Toney. The difference.
Yeah.
Some of those draws are wins now. Some of those losses are draws now. Does that claw back the 6-3 sort of shenanigans at City or the 7-0 at Anfield? No. There's going to be other things that need to get fixed for that. But it's a step in the right direction. No one's saying Ten Hag has to win the title in his second season or he can get to fuck. I hope. I mean, it's 2023. There definitely are people saying that. But
some people will be saying that, yeah. But most people aren't saying that, though. Yeah, it is good that, like you said, there's sort of obvious fixes there. If United could replicate their home form away from home, you'd be looking at a title challenge comfortably. And like you said, the ways to do that maybe it's slightly different to just buying a striker, but it's pretty clear where United need to improve. Just one player that we need to talk about. We spoke about it on our review. I'm sure you spoke about it on yours as well. But Marcus Rashford hitting 30 goals for United this season. Since the start of the season, I think it's 33 that he scored because he got those 3 at the World Cup as well, which is obviously what would typically be sort of Premier League time. How mental is it that he's done that after scoring 5 last season? Like, you can just say, isn't it a testament to the character? I don't think I've ever seen anyone do that. Like, have such a bad season and then come back with 30 goals, which is...
Drogba had something similar, I think.
Did he? Okay. We're looking at...
I know Drogba scored 5 in the league one season.
Yeah. But I don't think he scored 30 the year after. And it's just, like, 30 goals...
It might have been the other way around.
Yeah, maybe. 30 goals isn't just a player who's having a good season, like, or a good player. Well, to get 30, you have to be a very, very, very good player, don't you?
He went from 5 to 29, Joe.
Fucking hell. Drogba's just mad, though, isn't he? So there you go. Not seen, 15 years or so since Drogba did that. Like, it's very rare to see a player have those kind of jump-ups.
Yeah, I think... I thought he'd be better than he was last year.
Yeah.
Sort of hoped he would be better than he was last year because you were thinking, what next if he doesn't get this right? And actually, I think I remember he was rounding into form at the World Cup. He was just starting to cook prior to the World Cup. There were some good performances, maybe wasn't quite getting the goals. Goes to the World Cup, looked amazing during the World Cup. Got benched over fucking Sterling, who'd been at home watching the Bill all week, and then comes back from the World Cup like genuinely, do we need to test his piss? Because what the fuck is going on here? There was a period of about 2 months where it was comical. He just scored every week, and that was the game. That was the rules. Like, has Marcus scored yet? No, give it 5. He would score. And then he went off the boil a little bit, and he's kind of been off the boil a little bit, probably because he fucking ran out of steam. Because not only have you got the, it wasn't on his own. There was a lot of players, a lot of minutes was played back to back to back to back to back to back to back. No time off, no mental break, no release, fuck all. And I think as a club we sort of stumbled a little bit. Opened the door for Liverpool in the last month or so because of that little stumble, but ultimately got the job done and got over the line in the end, which not a lot of people had us down for at the start of the season.
I think most of the predictions I saw from non-United fans were that United wouldn't finish top 4. Everyone thought Tottenham had improved. No one thought Liverpool would drop out. A lot of people thought Arsenal might get better and Chelsea be there or thereabouts with the new owners. United were a very easy 5th or 6th place prediction. So to do it, and let's be honest, I know, like you said, we made it slightly more tricky than it needed to be, but we've been in the top 4 all season. It's been pretty comfortable in the grand scheme of things, hasn't it? Like, it's good that we've been able to do that. Just on the Champions League thing, lastly, I want to talk about this. I'm not saying we would be in the top few favourites at all. But has Ten Hag's, what he did in the past with Ajax, getting them to a semi-final, and he was a whisker and a miracle away for Tottenham from getting them to a final. What he's done with us in the Cups this year, 2 finals, and I know things fell apart against Sevilla, but again, we're in the midst of that. Rashford's gone off the boil and everyone's too tired to sort of breathe phase. Do you see a potential chance to go somewhere in the Champions League, or do you just see it as a way to, now we can buy better players?
I never think it's as black and white as that. I don't think many people would be telling you that it was going to be a Milan derby in one semi-final and one of those guys would get to the final this year. I'm pretty certain no one was thinking that at the start of the season, in all honesty. I think English teams are doing quite well in Europe at the moment. Juventus are in all sorts of shit. I mean, Barcelona ended up in the Europa League. Bayern Munich fizzled out. Like, there was a bit of a collective meh in the Champions League, sadly, this year. And then obviously you see what City did to Real Madrid. You're thinking, fucking hell. Like, you know, it's City's to lose as far as I'm concerned this season. And we find ourselves in a final with City. So, like, could that not happen in the Champions League next year? You've just said Ten Hag has proven he's got the knack of navigating cup competitions. I reckon, you know, has anyone gone as far as ourselves and City across Europe this year? You know, they're in one final, we're in one final, we've already done one final. You know, across the pair of us, we've put some fucking mileage down in the cup competitions. And I spoke about this on my own review, but to myself, obviously. So I'll put this to somebody else just to get a little bit of something back on them now. I don't have any access to Eric Ten Hag. I might be able to get a little bit of access to Steve McLaren. I don't know if I'd get an off-the-record conversation with him because I don't really know him. But I would love to ask of the coaching staff, was it a mistake to go as strong as we did? And would there be the same sort of pressures next year to try and win everything the way we've attempted to do this year?
I almost think that the fact that the Premier League was always so far away, I know there's a point around January where it wasn't that, but as the season went on and as the decision-making went on, we were never going to win the Premier League. I think they almost could do the whole, we're playing for everything, because really we're not playing for the Premier League. I think they could do that. I think next year, if we are in a genuine title race...
League, did we?
What do you mean?
We didn't prioritise any of the cups over the league.
No, we didn't, but I think...
We just went, match day, let's have it.
Yeah, I do think if we were in the bigger competitions, if we were challenging for the Premier League and we were in the Champions League, I think you might see a bit of rotation in the League Cup or even in the early rounds of the FA Cup. We didn't do that in anything. I think it was a case of the best case scenario this season is a non-Premier League treble. That was best case scenario. Whereas next year, best case scenario could be, you know, going for the Champions League or going for the Premier League. I think we'd probably see a different outcome. But maybe that's just what Ten Hag does. Maybe it's win every week and then, you know, the ultimate success comes at the end of the season. But I think you've seen it so many times across so many teams.
Treating every game as the most important thing in front of the team is how he gets in his winning mentality. Yeah. Some people are like that, aren't they?
Yeah.
Fergie obviously planned fucking 2 months in advance and tinkered. You know, Fergie's squad rotation's legendary. And Eric Ten Hag, you know, I touched on this a little bit as well. I'd be interested to get your thoughts. I think he's navigated a lot of potential pitfalls, but there's also been things that have got to be improved. Like we already mentioned earlier, the away form. You know, I'm pretty sure he didn't go at half time and go, lads, let's lose 7-0 at Anfield. Like, I'm pretty sure that never happened. But those were some big defeats, and I'd love to know if he's able to even verbalise what the lessons are from those, because I've watched those games and I've tried to look for any sort of trends when we have crumbled, like we did at Etihad and at Anfield, and in some of the other games where it's really fucking gone west for us.
Yeah, Brentford.
And I can't really spot any trends apart from we seem to give up a lot of shots. Like, is there a way around us fixing that? Are we allowing too many players to cheat when we don't have the ball? You know, is that something we can get away with at Old Trafford because opposition don't commit as many men forward? Like, I hope he's got the answers to at least some of those questions that he fixes for next season. You know, maybe in the Dutch league, it wasn't quite as intense when it was home and away. Maybe it was a little bit more people were trying to play. It was a little bit more technical based where they'd still come and play if they were playing away from home. Whereas in the Premier League, every point matters. And there's something, I don't know who the fuck did the study on it, but the number of late goals in the Premier League that affect a score is more significant than most leagues across Europe. Teams don't give up in the Premier League. They still fight till the fucking end. there's some theory that that's because of the intensity of the crowd, and crowds don't allow you to drop and because of the larger percentage of away fans that you get certainly versus Spain and some of the other leagues. And I wonder if that is a factor. And is that a factor of why we saw such wild sort of away results during COVID and all that sort of stuff? So I wonder if that is going to be an adjustment that we see from United next season. And is he capable of doing that? I don't think we've seen him tactically win a game yet, as obvious as we saw with the likes of Oli or Jose, perhaps, where we might try and contain the opposition rather than just go out there and play in our style a little bit. If he has done, it's certainly not been as obvious.
I think the best example of that I think I saw was the City game at Old Trafford. I think we looked a certain way that was different to how we looked in games before, and we somehow, again, the details are maybe lost on me, but Haaland was non-existent in that game. De Bruyne did very little in that game. We managed to nullify their big threats and then sort of counter-attack. But yeah, typically it's not as every week is a different performance like we saw under Solskjaer maybe. I think on that point, I don't know the answer to that. I don't know how he fixes those things. But I do think he seems to be smart enough and meticulous enough to at least have a plan. We'll find out whether it works or not, but I don't think he's going... we'll just chalk that up as a bad day at the office. I think he will have things that he thinks went wrong, and will have a plan to try and fix those things. He seems like that sort of bloke that's just on top of everything all the time. So hopefully he does, and hopefully we'll see it next season.
Look, whatever happens, it's going to be interesting, and I'm glad that music's going to be playing again at Old Trafford next year.
I listened to it after the full-time whistle stay. I put it on YouTube and listened to the Champions League music by myself. I actually did, and I loved it. Right, that's going to be all from us. Thank you for joining us at home. Thank you, Steve, for coming on. You'll be back tomorrow with the brew, correct?
We got Brian McClare on with us, I believe.
Well, make sure you check that out at home. Thank you for joining us. Man United have made top 4, Champions League football. Maybe we can rotate against Fulham. The big one's still to come. Big things still to come.
That was a bit casual, wasn't it? That was a little bit casual that Brian McClare's coming on. Oh, no, a fucking double Premier League winner of Manchester United, former academy director, an absolute black belt in sarcasm. Brian McClare is coming on with us tomorrow.
Yeah, you have to watch that. I've become immune and accustomed to him, and I'm a disgrace for doing so. Make sure you check that out tomorrow. Very special. Steve, Brian McClare and Jay Motti will be here. You will be here as well, and we'll see you in a bit.